Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at an automation tool I made, and this is exciting for me because it's going to make my life easier and hopefully some of your lives easier. Let's check it out. It is a build tool for C++. It's not a full one, but what it will do is it will compile multiple files or one C++ file, or as many as you'd like. It will compile them all at once. So I'd recommend this for maybe 30 files or less. I haven't tried it on too many files yet. I think I only tried it on 3 so far. But it's really fast, plenty fast for that amount. And it compiles both with G++ and Clang. And the idea is that I use 2 compilers with WALL, so warnings all, warnings, the extra warnings, the warnings to errors, and the pedantic warnings. And so with those 4 types of warnings and 2 compilers, hopefully I'll get most of the issues that I would have debugged with caught at compiler time. So let's check this out, right? So I have executable, so let's cd into that. All right, this is where I keep my scripts, and you'll see I have a W build here. That's the executable. That's the program file that I've compiled. Let's try it out on this 3 of 10. Let's look into 3 of 10, I guess, and see what's in there. You'll notice I can lvim from anywhere now. I fixed my lunar vim pathing. I put it in my bash rc file, and now it's on the path, so that's nice. If we look in here, this 3 of 10 CPP file, let's see what it does because I forgot. There's a list of vector. It creates, okay, so I think this one counts. I should put this at the top. No, it doesn't count, sorry. What it does is it reverses chunks. So it takes this list, it splits it into 3, or it takes this vector, as we'll say for C++, and it splits it into 3 different vectors, each of size 3, and it reverses each of those size 3 vectors. So that's what this does. And we'll compile and run it and show how that works. So if I had to compile this the normal way, right? So let's just, I'm in the wrong one here. All right, so let's quit out of here if I can. There we go. And, all right, so let's compile it the normal way. So the normal way would be I have to do G++, and I would have to say something like output, and I want to output it to 3 of 10. That's the program name. And then the file name that I want to output to, or not, sorry, not output to, the file name of my C++ file. So I can't talk today. G++ output to 3 of 10, that's the output file. 3 of 10.cpp is the input file. And then if I want to enable all these warnings, I have to do, right, like W all, warning error, warning extra, warning pedantic, and then I have to specify what type of C++ that I want to use. And I want to use C++ 20 stuff if it's available, and I found, at least my understanding is, and again, new to C++, so bear with me if I'm wrong here, but my understanding is I can do std equals, and then I'll say C++ 2a, and I think this will be, I'm using 2a because I tried 20, and I forget whether it was Clang or G++ that it didn't work for C++ 20, so I do C++ 2a, and it works for both. You could also put 17 here, whatever C++ you're trying to work with, that's what you want to put there. So I do all this typing to render this file, so let's do it, and it should compile. Yeah, and it does. So it's done. If I do ls, we'll see that we have this green. Is my mouse here? Yeah, you can see my mouse. We'll have this green here. This is the executable. So now if I run this, we'll see that it took that list that we were showing at the beginning, it split it into 3 chunks and reversed each of the 3 chunks. So this is the file executed, but to execute it we had to type all this out. And what if I want to make sure that it compiles with Clang as well? Well, then I have to do one of these, and then I have to say Clang, Clang++, and I have to compile it with that to make sure it compiles with that. Once it's done with that, I can run the build again if it'll let me. There we go. And it works. Now that's annoying. That gets annoying real fast. So what I've done is I've made this W build program. It's the warning build program. It will compile it both with G++ in Clang with all those 4 warnings that I showed you, the error, all, pedantic, extra, and it'll use the C++ 20 flag or 2A flag that I have going. So let's try it. Let's remove the 3 of 10 program, and now if we ls, we'll see that that's gone, and we want to use wbuild this time, which is my custom program, to build this. So I'll say /wbuild, and all I'll do is give it the file name 3of10.cpp, and I hit enter, and check this out. It builds it in G++. If it's successful, it tells me. It builds it in Clang. If it's successful, it tells me. And if it builds it in both correctly, it's only still going to put out one file, and it's going to call it the first input file name, which is where your main is, without the .cpp on the end. So if I ls here, I'll see that again mine is called 3 of 10. And so it did all that for me. I don't have to type out all those warning flags, none of that stuff. It's just done. I'm so excited for it, and I'm excited to hopefully soon bring it all to you. So now I can run it just like I did last time, and we'll see that it works. What happens if it fails though, right? We want to see what happens if this fails. So let's look and find out. So first we want to remove that 3 of 10, and then we want to look at the 3 of 10.cpp file and purposefully put an error in it, right? So let's do that. Let's go down here. Let's take out a semicolon. That gets them every time. All right, semicolon gone. We saved it. Let's get out. All right, so now if I run it with the old way, you'll see that it errors, and I just kind of want to show you how this works. So here's Clang. Yeah, we can call it 3 of 10, or just so it doesn't cause much confusion, let's call this one result, and you'll see that it still works. Result. There we go. And so it'll compile it to a program called result if it compiles, which it won't because it's going to error. So I do all this, I hit enter, freezes a bit. Okay, there we go. And we get the warning that we're missing a semicolon. Great, that's what we want. Now, if I do it with my wbuild program, my automation program, it should get the same result, right? So if I say w, because if I do right now, there's no program built. But if I do it with my wbuild program, the file name is going to be 3 of 10, not result, right? Because it just uses this minus the CPP, the first item. So let's say wbuild, and let's say 3 of 10.cpp. We should get the same error. We do, similar. Let's see, expected comma or semicolon before auto. Yeah, and it's saying that it's expecting something here. This is off. But what's really happening is, of course, that we're missing that semicolon. So maybe not quite the same error, but for me it's good enough. I know something's wrong, I'll go back in, I'll find it. And for this particular error, you'll see that my LSP catches this, right? ClangD catches this. So let's, for me it's good enough. It's not perfect, but I love it. So let's clear. Let's go back in, lvim 3 of 10.cpp. Let's fix this up. Okay, save it, and then, yeah, we'll quit. Then we'll run it, right? So let's run wbuild 3 of 10, and now it should compile. I think I forgot to mention, it will tell you which compiler it fails on. You probably saw that in the error messages. Oh, it's over here. In the error messages, it'll say G++ build failed, or if it passes on G++, it'll say build successful for G++, and if it fails on Clang, it'll say, hey, this failed on Clang. But if it fails on G++, that's the first one it runs before it runs Clang. So if it fails there, it's going to exit. And it'll never get to the Clang one. So it has to pass both in order to compile successfully. And now we can run it, of course, and it works. So that's the gist of the program. Now, a couple other interesting features I have built in here. I have, if I just try and run it with nothing in it, it's going to be like, hey, that doesn't work, and it gives you instructions on how to use this program. You can see the one we've done is wbuild with filename.cpp. I don't have a multiple filename.cpps to show you, but I have tested it with it, and it does work with multiple files, right? So you're compiling multiple CPP files, and yes, you're compiling them all every time, but for me, this is for small projects, right? Probably 30 files or less, something like that, which will work for a long time for me before I need to switch over to something else. The other way you can do it, of course, this will compile everything, which again is that same issue of it compiles everything, but again, it's for small projects, so it doesn't really matter. So this wbuild .wbuild all.cpp also works, and it'll compile. Now in this folder, I think I have more than one. No, I don't. I only have one CPP file, so it should work. Let's try that. And the output will be program this time. If you use all.cpp, the output, I believe, is just called program. It's generic. So let's remove 3 of 10, clear it. Okay, and we see it's gone. And now we want to do wbuild. If this fails, I might have to go look at what's up, but let's see. Can't type. There we go. All.cpp. Okay, G++ successful, Clang successful. Now we look, and there we have it. Oh, okay, so I have the all.cpp set up to actually build it with this. Okay, that's nice to know. That's good to know, and that's great. So let's run it, and it works. All right, now I do want to dive into show you a little bit of it. I just want to show you the automation bit first because that's the exciting part for me. That's the final product, right? Now I'm going to dive into some of the code. So if you're a very technical mind and you want to stick around and see that, let's do it. If not, thanks for watching. But here we go. Let's dive in. Let's get technical. More technical anyway. So I'm in the scripts. First off, I want to remove that. I want to go back to my scripts file. Sorry, I was in executables. And we want to look at this wbuild, and I'll try and talk you through what I can of this. Let's see. You'll see a lot of includes up here, just needed for this, and then you'll see a lot of using. And I like to put my using up here, and I use the standard library things that I use, and I just put them up here, so I don't have to keep writing std : every time. For example, I can use this out here without importing all of the standard library. I just pick the functions that I want to import. Alright, so let's go down to main. And I'm just getting used to Lunar Vim, so if you see me clicking a bunch of keys and not much is happening, that's why. I'm just getting used to Vim in general, but it's still exciting. I also have my workstation hooked up with the Vim extension. I have to use VS Code there pretty much because there's just the projects I work on are so much bigger. I could do them it's a whole discussion, but it works better for me in VS Code with the extension, and I just updated my settings.json. Someday I'll have to show you my personal Vim extensions for VS Code. Obviously I can't show you my work one because of the code policies and stuff, but I'll show you my personal version of that at some point. Anyways, back to the thing. So, oh, the other feature, right? The other feature is if you don't know how this program works, it has a built-in help, and it gives you the same thing as if you do, I gotta go back to my executables. Okay, so if I do wbuild with nothing, it tells me how to use it. But if you're just a user and you don't know that and you want the standard help, you get the same thing, and it shows you how to use it if you do the program name and then help. You could also do the program name, can't type today, and let's say I spell help with capital letters. It doesn't matter, I have it set up, that'll still show you the help screen, and it'll tell you what to do. Alright, back to the code. So back to scripts, Alvin, wbuild. Alright, back down to the bottom. Yeah, so the first thing I do, as you saw, if it checks the arguments, and it checks the count, and we're passing in the first file name so that we can print it out if it's an issue, right? And I think if I do go to definition GD, yeah, it takes me there, sweet. Alright, so I check the count if it's less than 2, because the first one is wbuild, and the second one is the filename.cpp. If it's less than 2, I want to print the usage of the program and exit the program. Pretty self-explanatory there. The next one is the check help function, so GD, go to definition. Oh, I love that, getting used to the keys. Anyways, check help takes in the file name, and it takes in the file name and a value, the value being the first argument, 0, 1. If you're indexing with 0, it's the first argument of the command line arguments that you're passing. And if it's help, or any version of help with capital letters, lowercase letters, it prints the usage and exits so that you know what you're doing with the program. I haven't covered all error cases in here necessarily, but I've covered enough for what I think is the common person and the common developer. And if you are a developer, you will very easily be able to use this program, no issues. If there's nothing really to hack on it or anything, so I'm not worried about covering every single edge case, right? I just want to I want it to work for me, and I want it to work for other people, and that's what I'm doing here. So we check error, check help to see if the user wants help. If not, then we need to build commands for Clang++ and G++, right? So we get these two commands, and we'll dive into that in a second. Then what we do is we take each command, and I could have looped this, but there's only two, so I'm not worried about early optimization. If I figure if it's like 3 or more, or maybe 5, I'll optimize it. But if there's only 2, meh. So what I've done here is system, and command 1 is the string, and the string is that whole G++ -o file name, sorry, output file name, input main input file name, and then all other file names, or the star.cpp. And we have to convert it to a C string here, which I think is an array of characters instead of a C++ string. Not quite sure why. I think it has to do with something that system's from C. But anyways, you convert it, you put it in to system, it runs it. It spits out a, what have I done? It spits out a result. If the result is 0, then, how do I say this? If the result is 0, it's successful. If it's not 0, there's some type of error. So we're saying if it's not 0, we want to run the error build for G++, and but let's assume it is successful. So it runs, result 1 is 0, skips this if line, G++ build successful, goes down here. This is the Clang command. It runs it. Again, result 2, if it's 0, it skips that line. Clang build successful. Now, what happens if it's not successful, right? It errors. So we go up here, and we create error message. We take in the compiler name. Is it G++ or is it Clang++? And we say error message is equal to compiler plus build failed exiting, and we spit out the error message and we exit. And then what will happen is before this error message spits out, the compiler message of why it failed will show up on the screen, and then it'll show this exiting thing. I tried this whole thing with like writing it to a file and then reading the file. That didn't seem necessary though, so this seemed good enough for my needs. So this is what I've done. Now the big one, right? The big thing is, first off, what is this destructuring? If you're not used to the newer C++, or if you are just new to C++, but maybe you're from JavaScript or something, you'll recognize this, right? This is if you're from like JavaScript or something like that, this is destructuring. If you're from the older C++, this is destructuring. This is a standard pair. The 2 version of a tuple, tuples 3 or more, pair is two items. So I just destructure my 2 string commands, and then I use them down here. And they come from this build command, so let's go to that. This is the big one. Oh, I'm returning a tuple here, string, not a pair. Interesting, I thought I was returning a pair. Anyways, that's fine for now. I'll change that later. The build commands takes in a count, and it takes in all the file names. So here we go. How do I build these? Command 1, G++, command 2, Clang++, fine. We know the ending is always going to be the same, all the warnings, and then the standard C++, whatever you choose. In my case, I'm choosing 2A. And then what I'm going to do down here is I'll say if the second argument, or index 1, is all the star.c++, and you'll see that this didn't quite work out for me, and I'll have to figure out why this is when I ran it for you to show you, but it did work. Thankfully it worked out, but not in the way that I thought it would. So I'm going to have to look at this logic, but it should spit out a program with the name program, and it shouldn't spit out a name with 3 of 10 like we saw. But like I say, I'll look into that. Maybe I'm using an older build of that. I'm not sure. I'll have to figure that out. But anyways, so yeah, if it's the all.cpp, we add this command in on top of G++ and on top of Clang++. So it'll be G++ -o program all.cpp, and then the ending, which is this stuff. And that's it. And then we return those 2 strings. We execute those strings as you saw at the bottom, etc. Now what if it's not all.cpp? Then we have to loop through these file names, and we have to put them in the correct spot of the string. So the first thing we did is we say, hey, we want to name the program after the file that the main function's in. In this case, that's the file name, the first file name that's passed in, if it's not all.cpp. Let's say it was that 3 of 10.cpp. Reason it was named that is because I was doing like a problem set, and that's one of them. So anyways, 3 of 10.cpp, and then we get the substring of that from the first character, and this file name.length -4 tells you how many. Usually substrings in other languages are like, I want to get from index 0 to index 5. Index 0 is inclusive, index 5 is not inclusive. This substring is different. 0 tells you the starting index, and then the second value tells you how many characters you want to grab after that starting index. In this case, I want to grab them all except the last 4, which is the .cpp, which is why I have this here. So I'm going to get 3 of 10 here without the .cpp, and that's going to be my program name. And that'll work for any file name, right? Because it just grabs the file name without the extension on the end. Then I add the strings together. So I have my program name, and I say command 1, which is g++ +-o plus program name. Program name is 3 of 10.cpp plus space. But then I'm not done, right? Because then I still need the ending, and I still need all the file names, which is here. So I have this loop going on, and I have to loop. How do I say this? I can't loop through the file names by going for file of file names. I can't say of, but file : file names. I can't use that shortcut because it doesn't like the fact that I'm trying to loop on. Like it's like a pointer to this array. It doesn't like that. So what I ended up having to do is create just like a standard for loop over it, and then I add each of the file names to the appropriate string here each time. Add the endings to both, and I return. And that's my build. Let's look at it one more time. Let me just quit out of here. I'm just going to quit without saving. Let's do back to executables. Let's see it one more time. So w build, I pass in the file name, run it, successful, and it's done, right? It takes a few extra seconds because it runs both compilations. But very excited for that. If you enjoyed this, you want to see more automations, you want to see just more coding in general, right? This channel is all about coding and learning and building interesting things or things that can make our lives easier. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.